5, got the 1942 pouring in my cup. In the session real loud, good gas, yeah, you know we about to roll it up. Bring the bottles to the session, big tab, go ahead and just live it up. Get lit one night, after that, we can go ahead.
What's going on? What's going on? It's your boy Iconi. And we here on 95 South podcast episode 10. Us to have another opportunity to be able to break presence to this show. I got my man personality. And what's going on, bro?
What's up, bro? You kind of breaking up really bad. But what's happening? Good morning, people. 95 South Podcast. We got another star-studded episode for you, man. We're going to be talking about changing the culture, rebranding and restructuring the culture, man. Because as we know, we all have an ear for music. We love music, but the type of things that these kids hear nowadays, and a lot of people who are for the culture feel like it's poisonous to these kids' ear. So this morning we have one of my homies, man, my man 50 Grand out of the Miami, Florida area, man. My man Lamont Popp Nantan. You know what I mean? CEO Ice Squad Entertainment, community innovator, music executive, public figure. He speaks at seminars. He goes into the prisons and talk to the people that have been convicted felons and give them some structure and some mentally rebranding for when they come home on these bricks and try to change the narrative to hit society once again after they paid their debt to society. What's up, Pop?
Hey, what's going on, Jacob Tunes, brother? It's so good hearing from you once again, man. You know, we always vibe every time we connect.
Yes, sir, man. So you are one that really embraces the fact of changing the culture. So how did that mentally and intellectually kind of register in your mind when you first went on this journey about changing the culture?
Man, that's an awesome question. I'm so glad you asked that question. Yeah, that's actually that's my hashtag, man. That's a hashtag I've been pushing for some years now. Change the culture. Change is coming because I just got a revelation, man, that how a lot of things that we see in our community is basically embedded in us based on the culture that we are a part of. And the thing about culture is that culture is fluid. Culture can change. You know what I'm saying? Culture don't have to stay the same. As a matter of fact, the way our culture originated from our African roots, it's already changed from that, as you can see, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it changed then. So if it changed from that, it can change again, right?
Right.
So culture can change, right? So the culture that has been established now, as we can see, has been basically a blueprint against our community to keep us bound. It started in I wouldn't even say it started in the crack era. I think it started even way before that, just by the mere fact that Europeans tried to make us cattle, you know what I mean? Turn us into cattle and basically make us products, you know what I mean? And trade us and sell us and use us. And they really didn't want us to think like we were actually human beings. So it started way back from then, way back from the Jim Crow era. You know, it all throughout history just was strategically implemented into our community, that our culture would be a culture where we really did not love ourselves, where we really didn't value ourselves. You know, we went from, knowing that we come from royal roots, having some sense of community, exalting our elders, above everything, so that we can gain wisdom from them. You know what I mean? We were very spiritual people. Even our young people honored our traditions, but now it's like a free-for-all, right? Once the black man was removed out of the home, that just took it to another level, with our women feeling like they have to now be more than what their role actually called for. Meaning that they have to now be the man and the woman. Our children felt abandoned because they didn't have that structure and guidance that the man provides, because the man now had to fight for his life through the prison industrial complex system that's been set up to keep us bound. Because back in slavery times, if you wanted to, even after we were freed, right, by the Emancipation Proclamation, the one stipulation to keep us enslaved was imprisonment. So if we were found guilty of a crime, we could still be slaves of the state and get free, and they can get free labor out of us. That never changed. So they had to keep that door open somehow. And the way to do that was to, like I said, remove the man from the home, leave the woman unprotected to fend for herself, put her against the man, make her feel like the man was an enemy, and then separate our children from the man. So now our children even are warring against us because they feel abandoned. And then you got to replace that with something, right? Once you remove that guidance out of the home, you got to replace it with something. And what did they replace it with? Entertainment. So therefore, the head of the household was no longer the main influence of the youth. The main influence of the youth was radio, television, you know what I'm saying, movies, etc. You know what I mean? And that would have even been cool and okay as long as the right message was being promoted. But we know that didn't happen. Even with hip hop culture, which is something that I'm big on, because I work in the industry. Hip hop culture was started by the youth. Hip hop culture was started by the youth as a way to express themselves, as a way to actually come together as a community and to at least have some type of a positive outlet, right? A positive outlet. Hip hop did not start off as something negative. It started off as something positive that brought us together. It even brought different nationalities together so that we can all express ourselves through dance, through poetry, and through music. You understand? And even art, even graphic design. You know what I mean? And so it started that way, but then when it started, when it started being commercialized, and the capitalists saw that it was very profitable, the people that was behind generating this profit was not for us. They were not for us. They were for the dollar. They didn't care about the culture. They put certain people in place from the culture, but at the end of the day, the people that was in place was not signing the checks. So the people who were signing the checks, the people who were creating the marketing behind this movement, were people that did not necessarily have our best interests at heart. So when they saw how profitable it was, these people were associated with other ventures, such as the private prison industry. Okay, the private prison industry makes billions of dollars because they get paid by the federal government for filling those cells. The only way you can fill those cells is if somebody commits a crime. Okay, follow me. How are we going to fill these cells if no one's committing crimes? We have to make sure crimes are being committed. Who are the ones that we can almost guarantee will give us the numbers that we desire? The impoverished, the disproportionate communities, the underserved communities, the ones who do not have solid family structures. Okay, the ones where single mothers, single families. Okay, who does that describe? Who did that describe back in the early 80s? That described us, black people.
Yeah, black people.
Right? So when you look at it from a business standpoint, because that's how they look at it, okay, yes, there is a high racist component, you know what I mean? Because white supremacy is, at the foundation of it, but they still looked at it as business, just the same way they looked at slavery as business. And they looked at the biggest demographic that can fit this business model. The biggest demographic that could fit that business model was black people. So they had to ensure that black people continued to keep a mindset in their community that will result in criminal behavior, that would then result in arrests, that would then result in filling those prisons. Okay? So that means they had to keep the father out the home. They had to keep drugs in our community. They had to keep promoting criminal mindsets and negative lifestyles and behaviors that would lead to incarceration. Okay, so the fact that gangster rap came to the forefront and basically took over was no coincidence. If you do your research, you'll read about a secret meeting that took place with all of the music execs and some other type of business execs that made this a plot, a plan, and a strategy with the music industry to make gangster music the primary focus in rap. That conscious rap will no longer be in the forefront, because conscious rap is keeping young black youth out of prison, and that's not profitable. You see where we at today. I'm gonna stop right there. Go ahead.
Well, Pop, before I chime in, I'm gonna let my partner Icon E chime in, man, and give you his synopsis, because me and him talk about this type of convo and this type of dialogue a lot. So Icon E, go ahead, brother.
All right, can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, so this brother said a lot, you know what I'm saying, and he got me all over the place in my mind with different questions and different things I want to talk about. And it's kind of funny you said that, because I was watching this documentary about a year ago in Chicago. And Chicago, if you watch the buildings back in the 60s, those buildings were created purposely to basically put all these black people almost like in a cage. So like how you have all the high-rise buildings in New York, Chicago, places like that, you know what I'm saying? And all these people living on top of each other, and then these buildings become condemned and rat infested and the whole thing. And then, you know what I'm saying, of course, if you put, I don't care who you are, if you put people on top of each other, living on top of each other in those type of environments, it's like living in a jungle. So that's basically why a lot of the projects is considered like the jungle, because you're just throwing people on top of each other. And of course, if they're poor and they're fighting over scraps and the whole thing, then they're gonna have those issues of killing and robbing each other and the whole thing or whatever. And then when it finally was brought to somebody's attention, as far as the politicians, then they try to act like they were so offended by it or so like upset about it. So they ended up tearing all these buildings down and making houses that the people that they pretty much put in these situations couldn't afford. So now it became a whole different thing. So, you know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, it's like, now we come here to 2022, like you said, with the gangster music, all of this kind of stuff. And I was watching a podcast the other day with Tony Yayo, and one of the guys on there asked him, he said, do you think G Unit contributed to the gangster music and basically and promoted it in that way. Of course, Tony Yayo was being really defensive about it, saying it came before them and blah, blah, blah. But he didn't ever want to take credit for the fact that they continued that thing. But they did make a good point. If y'all do remember when they came out with the Stop the Violence songs, the self-destruction songs, we have never seen another self-destruction song since that time. You know what I'm saying? When they seen that the gangsters, the gangs was coming together and trying to have unity, and the rappers were coming together trying to show unity, and we started having people like the black, the green, and the red type, the X-Clan type groups and Public Enemy speaking on certain things. You know what I'm saying? They didn't want that. So they kind of pushed those to the side and kept trying to, and they kind of doubled down on even more gangster rap. You know what I'm saying? So my question to this brother is, how do we get, because I feel like I tell to Jacob all the time, and my son is an artist. And I say the thing about it is we can create our own narrative. Because the thing about fans are very fickle. You know what I'm saying? When you start pushing something, then fans going to go with what you start pushing. So if you push positive music, if we had more music that was more on a positive level, we had more Kendricks and J. Cole's, and we really try to start pushing it ourselves to the forefront, that means that the labels got to buy into it, because if people spending their money on that versus the gangster music, then they have to go with it. So the thing is, how do we get to that point where we're pushing the music that we want to hear and not just drill music and it's gangster music all the time? I know I said a lot, but you know, I was trying to get to.
No, I love it. I love it. Listen, these are the conversations that need to be happening on major platforms. This need to be happening at all of these music conferences. This need to be happening even on the governmental level. This need to be happening on the local and federal level, because this is affecting the state of our communities. So it's not an issue of just entertainment. It's actually a mental health crisis. Okay, and that's how it needs to be approached. And to answer your question, listen, it can absolutely change. It can absolutely change. Think about people that's in prison, right? You got people that's in prison. They go into prison, it totally destroy their mind, and they come out worse than they went in, right? Then you have another group of people who make a decision that they're not going to let prison break them, that they're going to take that model where they're only going to serve 2 days, the day they go in and the day they leave. And that's based on their mentality while they're in there, how they're going to operate while they're in there, how they're going to just take that time to get their mind right. You know what I mean? And keep the right attitude and stuff like that. Listen, life is the same way. Life is the same way. For many years, we've been using the poverty excuse. I'm going to call it an excuse at this point. We've been using the poverty excuse to justify our behavior in the community when it comes to criminalization and just being having that death mindset, right? But we're in 2022, okay? We don't have that excuse like that no more. We don't have that excuse like that no more. Why do I say that? Because we're not in a situation now where the unemployment line is wrapped around the building. Let's keep it 100. They're literally trying to figure out ways to just give us money. Okay? You got young people that just think of an idea, throw it on the internet, and become millionaires within a year. Okay? We don't have no excuse no more. We got cryptocurrency. We got all of these things now where if we really truly wanted to not be poor, we could not be poor. Okay? So we don't have that excuse. What it is that we have accepted, a lot of us have accepted the marketing campaigns that have been promoted to us to tell us who we are and what narrative we should accept and what narrative we should follow, right? Think about back in the 60s and 70s. We was living in some very dire times. We were still dealing with segregation. We was dealing with police brutality on a whole nother level to where it was almost legalized. Okay? But yet there was people that rose up from all of that, artists who rose up from all of that and decided, even going through all of that, instead of being a drug dealer, instead of being a pimp, instead of being a robber, instead of being a killer, I'm finna make music, and I'm gonna make music that's gonna keep my people's spirits uplifted, inspired, and entertained at the same time. Okay? Bob Marley. Bob Marley lived in the ghetto. Bob Marley could have been a gangster, but Bob Marley said, no, I'm gonna take this opportunity to use my gifts and talents to inspire my people. And think about it. If you want to go to hip hop, let's go to Public Enemy. They did the same exact thing. Okay? And so many others like X-Clan. You know what I'm saying? People like Diggable Planets. You know what I'm saying? So many people, what you call them, KRS and them boys, all of them, that is the decision that they made. So it comes down to a decision. And guess what? When those artists rose up and did that, they inspired other young people. They inspired other young people. And guess what? They were making money. Till this day, Bob Marley's family is still making money doing the same exact thing. They was able to make money. What happened is that when gangster music came in, like I said, the marketing campaigns, the marketing budgets shifted to promote that. So then we were dependent on major labels to tell us what was popular and what we should follow. Now we have the independent label movement, where independent labels are able to control their own narrative. Okay? What needs to happen, this is how we change the culture. We change the culture by coming together as independent labels and making a decision. It all comes down to a decision. A decision that we will no longer push the narrative that was given to us to destroy us. We will put our money where our mouth is. We will transition our budgets, our marketing budgets, to only promote things that are going to uplift us. They can still entertain us, but they cannot destroy us. They cannot be designed to destroy us. Once we do that, I guarantee you, I put my life on it. The community will follow and the labels will follow. Because the labels are no longer they're no longer doing artist development. They're no longer taking artists from the ground up and developing them into superstars. They're taking people who are already on the rise and attaching themselves to them so they can profit from their grind and their success that they already have. That's all they're doing. They're partnering with artists. They're not developing artists. So if the artists are all going in that direction and they're taking the community in that direction, the labels, because they're just money hungry and greedy, are going to attach themselves to it as well, because that's the direction where the money is going. That's where all of the dollars are being promoted and pumped to. Okay, that will change the culture, because some people are just driven by trends. Some people are just driven by money. So wherever the trend and the money is going, the people will follow. Most people are followers. They're not leaders. Let's just keep it a buck. So right. the leaders are the ones that have to dictate the narrative, and the followers will do what they do, follow. Because at the end of the day, consciously, we know what's right. Consciously, we know what's right. But if you're a follower, regardless what's right or wrong, you're just going to do what everybody else is doing. But when you see everybody doing the positive, it's going to automatically speak to your spirit.
And you know something, brother, I want to say this before I give it back to Jacob. And he knows it bothers me a lot with the whole snitching narrative. And I tell people all the time, I said, think about it And the whole snitching concept came up because the bosses, the leaders of these gangs and whatever you want to call them, and organizations, criminal organizations, was created pretty much by the boss themselves, so they wouldn't get snitched on to protect themselves. It had nothing to do with the little man. It really had to do with basically saying, if we create this narrative that if you snitch, that it'll destroy me as the boss, that basically, it's going to destroy it's going to crumble the whole thing. So it had nothing to do with really no kind of like morals or whatever the case may be. So basically my thing is, and when you say about followers, especially on social media, when you see like little granny in the neighborhood, or you see somebody in that neighborhood call the cops on whatever going on, or you see people, or everyday working man or woman, call the cops on stuff in the neighborhood, they're looked as part of snitches. And I'm like, no, that's not a snitch, because they're not part of that whole world that you signed up for. So my thing is, and I said, and we're the only culture that really kind of like co-signs on all of that kind of stuff. But the reason why I'm bringing all of this up is because, to me, I feel like because we have this, we don't really understand the difference between snitching and somebody who's just trying to protect their neighborhood and keep their neighborhood in a positive light, I think we kind of enhance like the crime in our own neighborhoods. Meaning, I used to take criminal justice. I took criminal justice in here in Georgia. And the one thing that the cops and stuff will tell you, because I had professors that were ex-police officers and ex-detectives, and some of them were current. The one thing they'll tell you is that the reason why they can't solve crimes in poor communities, especially black communities, is because nobody wants to step up to say what they've seen. They could be sitting right there and watch somebody get raped, murdered, robbed, the whole nine, and they don't want to say a word to try to solve a problem. And I think the biggest thing, before I give it over, is when I hear people, I've heard rappers all the time and people all the time do interviews. And I would watch a couple of Vlad interviews, and he'd always throw this question out. He'll say, so what if it was your mama or your sister who got raped or killed? Would you go to the police? And they was like, no. And I'm like, okay, so where's the line at with all of this? Because I don't get it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you could explain that to me then or whatever. I just don't get it, how our mind is so warped, where we just kind of like, no matter what the circumstances are, we just don't say a word. I just don't get it.
Well,
maybe it's just me.
Well, that's because snitching has always been promoted and as telling. You know what I'm saying? And in any circumstances. And that's not even the true definition of snitching. Snitching is when you tell on your accomplice, when you were a part of what was going on and you tell. That's snitching. But if you ain't have nothing to do with it, you're not snitching. You're reporting, basically. You're reporting what you saw that could either be detrimental to your community, detrimental to your home, detrimental to your neighborhood, detrimental to your neighbor, you know what I'm saying? Detrimental to your family. You just reporting what you saw. So that's not even what they promote as snitching is not even the true definition of snitching. See, there is a code when you're in a criminal organization, because it's you can't tell. If we both rob somebody, you can't go tell that I robbed somebody and we was both there doing it. That's snitching. You know what I'm saying? And that's the difference. So if you ain't have nothing to do with it, you are not snitching. But that's not how it's been promoted. And just like with anything else, just like how easy it is to go and kill somebody, just how so easy it is to go and slide on your op and just and murder another black person, no matter how old they are, you know, women, children, it don't matter, because that's all been programmed. That is a programming that has been indoctrinated into our culture. And that can change. Another component that we can implement, which I see other cultures do all the time, that we're afraid to do, is boycott the platforms that's promoting this stuff. If white people hear something on the radio, right, that they feel is offensive, man, listen, that thing will be taken off the radio within 48 hours. I promise you. I promise you, because they gonna call the heads of the corporations. They're gonna boycott. They're gonna write so many letters. They're gonna file suits. They're gonna do everything they can just because they heard something that was offensive. We hear things that's offensive 24/7, back to back to back to back to back to back, and we celebrate it. We clap for it. We tell them play that again. And that's the reason why it don't change, because our integrity level is different. It's almost non-existent when it comes to us and things that hurt us. We have no integrity. But if it comes from another outside group to us, oh, we got all the integrity in the world. Hence Black Lives Matter. Now we got all the integrity in the world. We ready to throw our fists up and march. But when it comes to us attacking us and doing things to hurt us and kill us, we silent. And that's another component that if we switch that up, can change the culture. Because imagine if you had all urban radio stations all over the country being protested against for playing that death music and pumping that to our community. You think it's not going to change? They only doing it because they think that's what we want to hear. So are we ready to really change the culture? That's the question.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can say this about the culture. You know, when you talk about positive hip hop, and me and my partner Icon talked about this the other night, that we would never hear a Nas if there was no Rakim. You know what I mean? And so changing the culture through the art form of music or hip hop, or changing just the culture period, man, through the education system, through, you know, community intelligence, you know, through understanding these political figures and how Black communities don't hold the political figures accountable. You know, it start with that first, bro. Like, you want me to vote for you. You campaigning in my neighborhood. You campaigning through these churches. But when we vote them in office, we hold none of them accountable. We don't go to the meetings. We don't go to our local chamber of commerce, especially for these Black business owners. Go to your local chamber of commerce to see what perks that you get as a business owner. As a business owner with the small business, you know, administration, there's different perks that you can get as a business owner. You know, we have to hold ourselves accountable, but we have to hold those elected officials accountable too. You know, that's one thing that can help change the culture. And another thing that can help change the culture, man, listen, bro, Black people been brainwashed since we was fighting against Pharaoh's army in the Bible days. You know what I mean? And like, what is this thing where you're mentally, emotionally, and spiritually brainwashed? Excuse me. You know what I mean? But nobody wants to talk about that. You know what I mean? Like, if you take the master lock off your brain and just wake up and open up your eyes, and if you don't understand, ask someone. There's so many intelligent Black sisters and brothers that have knowledge of these things. Ask somebody to break it down to you. You know what I mean? Ask somebody for understanding, man. And I think with that change, man, comes with, you know, it starts with education first. You know, it starts with a clear mindset, and then, you know, we talking about the poverty communities, but there a lot of areas are tearing down the poverty communities and building up the high rise for the doctors and lawyers and the veterinaries. And so, you know, when did we let gentrification be so accessible to our Black communities? That's another question, Pop.
That's true. I mean, gentrification, it just comes down to who got the money. Because who got the money got the power. And if we don't take care of our neighborhood, if we don't invest our money back into our own neighborhood, somebody else will. Because they're going to see the value in it that we don't see. You understand? They're going to see that. They're going to see what it can become. They're not seeing what it is. They're seeing what it can become. And to be honest with you, think about how long we've had the opportunity to do that. We have settled for the ghetto. We have settled. As long as we together, we good. No matter how we living. And that's how we've always kind of operated. But developers come in and they say right there. That could be a that could be a shopping center right there, man. That could actually be, doing something worthwhile, making money. That because they're not doing nothing with it. It ain't like it's a thriving. It ain't like they tearing down areas that's just thriving and moving and prospering. You know what I'm saying? They tearing down areas that they think is not doing absolutely nothing. You
Right.
know, and if we had more of our wealthy folk, invest back into our communities, and they take the initiative to build up these places, nobody else would have to come in and do it. You get what I'm saying?
Well, I will say this too, though. Can y'all hear me? Because I will say this too, though. And back in my hometown, in North Carolina, my sister she's part of a group that they took one of the old elementary schools and they turned it into some businesses, and she's been trying to buy real estate in the area and houses in the area, and either not necessarily houses but land in the area, and put duplexes and stuff in the area that was some open land or whatever. And she's been having pushback to the point where basically when it comes to us, they try to charge us double. So in other words, when you say it's all about money, it's like, okay, if the Jewish guy comes in or somebody else comes in, the white guy comes in, we're going to sell you for the value on what it is. But when the black person comes in, the way they get pushback is, oh, well, all of a sudden now it's a bidding war, so the price of it then went up. They're going to double. So, you know what I mean? So that's the kind of pushback we get when we do have the money, and it's like, oh, shoot, they actually can afford to do this. And then so that's when they come up. That's when they
right, and they make it hard, and they make it harder.
Exactly. That's how they move the goalposts on us.
Yeah. I get it, man. I get it. But you know what, though? To be honest with you, man, it all comes down to value. How do we have to first value ourselves before we can value where we live. You get what I'm saying? We got to value ourselves first, man. And we lost that element of pride that we had in ourselves, and therefore it affected our community where we live as well. Because you can get, man, I mean, it was a time, man, you can get every single person from grandma to the daddy, the mama, the baby, everybody will rally together for a cause. March in the street. You remember the bus boycotts? Black people was willing to not even catch the bus no more. They were willing to walk for miles to get to work collectively, in agreement, in unison. You understand? They were willing to do that. They were willing to do that because they were together, man. They were unified, and everybody really wanted to protect the community. Right now, that level of pride in our community is just not there. That's why you'll have a rally and the numbers won't be like that, like it used to be, because it's like only the old people still care. The young people, they done lost thought. It's like, unless you're talking about white people hurting black people, you rarely going to see young people come out.
They don't care about nothing else, man.
Yeah.
And I just think social media has brainwashed them. And the music is one thing, but actually social media and having that little small square computer device in their hand that we call a cell phone, that's a whole different level, man.
It all ties in. It's like a little TV in our hand. That's all it is. It's a little TV in our hand. Before we had these cell phones, all the propaganda came through the television. And, you know what I'm saying? Before we had these, so it ain't no different. It's just more advanced now. Whatever they want to feed us, they're gonna feed us through whatever the popular element, that platform that's popping at the time. And right now it's social media. So, and the thing about social media is that social media gives you the opportunity for self-destruction. The seed, once the seed is planted, they already know what you're gonna do. You're gonna destroy yourself. And then social media will give you the opportunity to do that.
Right. So Pop, I'm gonna read this question and I'm gonna let you chime in. Would you say now the media has more power over people by influencing the youth?
Hold on a second. I'm gonna put it right here and talk to y'all because I'm trying to multitask. Ask me that question again.
I said, would you say the media has more power when influencing the youth?
Oh, absolutely. That's where they get that's where they get their education from. School is not the primary source of education anymore. Social media is. So you can't tell me something is true if I don't see it on social media. I don't believe it. That's just where they are. Their truth come from social media. Their education come from social media. You know what I'm saying? And unfortunately, what they see on social media is filled with a lot of lies and deception. You understand? So
Yeah.
you know that the media is it. That's why if we're going to change the culture, we have to have a control of the narrative when it comes to the media. You understand? And not sell out, not sell our people out. Because every time it seems like we do get a platform, we sell out. And what I mean by selling out is we got the opportunity to speak to our people, to our community, but we feed into whatever's trending, even if it's detrimental to us. Like we want to be so in on everything that we don't have no type of boundaries. You know what I'm saying? So we gotta have people with integrity that's on these media platforms. Because what sense does it make to have okay, for example, I'm just using it for example because everybody know them. So what's the point of having a BET, Black Entertainment Television, if we're going to use that platform to promote everything that's destroying our community? What's the point?
Yeah.
They not going to. You think you pretty much with the enemy. You with the enemy. That's not beneficial to us. You know, you got programming on there that's confusing our young people, you know, helping them to make bad life decisions. What is that? That was not the vision that we had for Black television. I'm talking about before we had the opportunity to have our own television networks. That's not the vision. That was never the vision. The vision was to have a platform, media platforms where we can actually speak directly to our people, contrary to what the enemy was putting out and what those who seek to destroy us was putting out. But we done joined the parade.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So if we're going to control the media, we got to have integrity. And that's the part that we don't talk about. We always talk about, oh, we got to have black this and black that. Black this and black. That don't matter if that black entity is a part of the problem. You get what I'm saying? That's like saying, oh, we got black-owned record labels. What difference that make? That's actually one of the biggest instruments they using right now. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you black-owned, but what are you doing with it? You pushing the same narrative that they pushing on us. So that's the difference I think we need.
You know, not to cut you off, but you know, the thing about it, like with BET, where it messed up when Bob Johnson decided to sell BET back to Disney, and Disney tried to act like they so clean cut, but Disney is probably the biggest, you know, like opponent of putting out the negative stuff. Just like everybody else, they just don't do it on the Disney side. They do it in a different way. But when they took over BET, they destroyed BET, and that's why we get what we got. Because when it was completely Black owned, we was getting Teen Summit. We were getting positive shows on every week on a Saturday morning or whatever or throughout the week. Now it's just all these. It's just a bunch of mess that doesn't mean anything to us anymore or whatever. It's just we just like everybody else. So at the end of the day, it's like I think the biggest thing was when we create these platforms, even if we decide that, okay, whatever reason we want to sell them, then still it's at least sell them to us. Still at least to put it in the hands or put in the contract. There's certain things you can't change. So just like if let's say if it was KFC or McDonald's, if KFC and McDonald's changed sold their companies right now to some outside entity, I guarantee you in the contract is certain things that you are not going to be able to change about that brand or whatever. And I think that's what we mess up. we sell something for the money of it to say, oh well, we done took it all the way as far as we could take it. Now we're gonna sell it, and then when they destroy it, then we're upset about it, and we can't do nothing but blame ourselves to be at the end of the day.
Right,
Well,
exactly. And BET could have been the one to set up the next generation by setting the pace and showing them how it's done. But they pretty much, set our young people on on a whole nother path where, the negative is actually what they're striving to produce. You know what I'm saying? So it's just a bad cycle that's in motion. But at this point, gentlemen, I would even settle. I'm saying settle only because that'll get our feet in the door. I would even settle with compromising on getting some balance at least. At least let's start with balance. Okay? We don't have to do a full revamp. Okay? Let's ease into it. Let's at least ask for balance. Let's get an equal playing field for artists that want to put out positive content, for creators that want to put out positive content that don't promote that debauchery in our community. Give them the same platform, give them the same marketing budgets, give them the same energy that we give in the negative. So at least our community will be able to see that there is a choice. Because right now, these young people feel like there is no choice. You take a young person that get good grades, come from a two-parent home, a good kid, they want to be a rapper. The first thing they're going to do is look at who's popping. And that's how they're going to determine what direction they need to go in to be successful. And if the only thing they see back to back that we're celebrating, that we're congratulating, that we're endorsing is the ones that's pushing death and destruction, what you think they're going to use as their blueprint? The same exact thing, because they don't have nothing to model after. So we need to show balance so that we can show our young people that they really do have a choice. A lot of them choose that because they feel they don't have a choice. If they do it any other way, they're not gonna win. That's how they feel. So they pretty much sell their soul just to do what they love. And that's what we got to change. So if we can at least get balance, I think that's a good start. If we at least ask for balance, equal playing field.
Yeah, Jay, go ahead and give your last comments because we gotta wrap it up here. So go ahead, Jacob, and give your last.
I can agree with that, starting to balance and changing narrative. And now I just want to say this to all my black business owners, my black entrepreneurs. Understand this. I am for you about growing a black dollar, but I am not for a person who don't understand economic growth, who don't understand acquiring capital, and who don't understand the valid procedure of creating currency. And this is why I say that. You can never acquire the black dollar if you don't understand how the universal dollar moves. Let me say that once again. You can never acquire the black dollar if you don't understand how the universal dollar moves. So you have to master how the universal dollar moves first. You know what I mean? So study that universal dollar. When I say the universal dollar, I don't mean just money in the U.S. I mean the universal dollar as a whole and how it moves from different countries to different countries and then comes to the U.S.
All right. So on that, we're gonna wrap it up on there. Lamont Popp Nation, or Nathan, I'm sorry. I want to thank you for coming on this morning. You gave us a lot of positive information. We definitely gonna have to do a part 2 because we didn't really get it. We didn't really get into the nuts and bolts of this thing. So
because I got a whole blueprint I would love to share with you brothers of how we can actually start at the grassroots level implementing this culture change. So definitely and even in the industry. So yeah, let's definitely keep this conversation going, y'all.
Yeah, we definitely gonna do a part 2 of this conversation real soon. Jacob definitely gonna get with you. We're gonna do a part 2. We gotta do a part 2, 3, and 4. We're gonna get it in. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna figure this thing out. You know what I mean? This not gonna be a one-off. I guarantee you that. So if you got any social medias or anything like people can contact you at, or if you want to shout out, we'll do what you do, and then so we can get up out of here.
All right, for sure. So everybody, if you want to follow the movement right now, my movement is ICE Squad. The ICE stands for integrity, character, and excellence. That's what the game is missing. So that's what we bring it. All right. Y'all make sure y'all follow us on all social media platforms at ICE Squad ENT or at ICE Squad Rap. The website is icesquadent.com, man. You can follow the whole movement and see what we're doing. Also, I want to shout out the Circle of Brotherhood. Black men solving our own community problems. Grassroots organization out of Miami, Florida, representing right now. You know what I'm saying? And we doing big things in Miami, man. And hopefully we can eventually take it nationwide. You know what I'm saying? Where we are really trying to first reach the minds of our people so that we can change the narrative and change the environment. So I appreciate y'all, brothers, for having me on the show. Jacob, you know it's always love. Icon, it was a pleasure meeting you. And I look forward to furthering this conversation in the future.
Yes, sir. So
Shout out to my brother.
Shout out to D-Boss TV. Shout out to Independent Chicks. Shout out to She Real. Those are our affiliates for today. You know, shout out to my brothers on the panel today. We up out of here. It's your boy Icon E, my man Jacob the Great. And you know what I'm saying? And the pleasure of being able to have on today Lamont Popp Nantan. You know what I'm saying? CEO of ICE Squad Entertainment. Y'all have a blessed one. We up out of here.
Peace.
Got the good vibe, got the 1942 pouring in my cup. In the session real loud, good gas, yeah, you know we about to roll it up.